Everyone in town had already decided Emma was making a terrible choice. They whispered behind her back, wondering why a woman with her grace, education, and wealthy upbringing would ever agree to go out with someone like Liam, a simple mechanic who didn't even have a proper car. Her friends joked about it openly, teasing her that she was lowering her standards, that she'd regret wasting an evening on a man who could never match her lifestyle. Emma heard every comment, every laugh, yet something in her heart remained steady. There was a gentleness in Liam's voice, a sincerity in his eyes that felt rare in a world obsessed with appearances. Even when doubt tried to creep in, she held on to that sense that maybe, just maybe, there was more to him than anyone cared to see. She didn't know it yet, but this night was about to prove everyone wrong. As they drove through the quiet streets, Emma kept expecting Liam to turn toward one of the nicer restaurants in town. Instead, the truck slowed in front of a tiny, worn-out diner with a buzzing neon sign that looked like it could go out any second. The paint was peeling. One of the chairs outside was missing a leg, and only a single waitress stood inside, wiping down a counter that had clearly seen better days. Emma felt her stomach sink. She didn't want to judge him, but this wasn't the kind of place anyone imagined for a first date test, especially not with her background. For a moment, she wondered if her friends were right, if she had ignored all the obvious signs. Liam noticed her hesitation, his eyes dropping with a hint of embarrassment, and that alone made her pause. She didn't know it yet, but stepping inside would change everything. Just as Emma was trying to settle into the creaky booth, Liam suddenly stood up, looking more nervous than before. Without explaining much, he walked over to the counter and whispered something to the older woman working there. Emma watched him disappear into the kitchen, completely confused. Minutes passed, and she started wondering if he'd left because the date was going badly. But then the door swung open, and Liam emerged carrying 2 plates not of greasy diner food, but of beautifully prepared homemade pasta. He placed the dish in front of her with shy eyes, admitting he used to work there as a kid, that the owner had taken him in when he had no one, and this was the only dish he truly knew how to make from the heart. Emma felt something shift inside her. It wasn't fancy, but it was genuine, and that made all the difference. As they began to eat, Liam slowly opened up in a way Emma hadn't expected. There was no attempt to impress her, no polished stories or exaggerated accomplishments. Instead, he spoke quietly about growing up with very little, about losing his parents far too young, and about wandering through life until Maggie, the owner of the diner, took him in like her own. He told her how he washed dishes here after school, how he learned to cook standing right where he had just prepared her meal, and how this tiny, outdated diner was the only place that ever felt like home. Emma listened, not out of politeness, but because every word pulled her deeper into a truth she never would have guessed. This wasn't just a cheap diner to him. It was a reminder of survival, of kindness, of a past shaped by struggle yet filled with quiet strength. She realized then that his world held more meaning than she had ever imagined. Emma had barely finished absorbing Liam's story when he suddenly excused himself and stepped outside. She watched through the window as he waved to someone, then another, and within moments, cars began pulling up one after another. Confusion washed over her until the diner door opened and people started walking in. An elderly man with tired eyes, a young mother carrying her child, a group of college students, even a police officer still in uniform. They weren't strangers to Liam. They greeted him with warmth, gratitude, and a familiarity that spoke louder than words. Maggie leaned toward Emma and quietly revealed the truth. Liam helped all of them, week after week, feeding them, listening to them, finding them work, sometimes even paying out of his own pocket. He never bragged, never expected praise. Emma sat there stunned, realizing she wasn't sitting across from a poor mechanic, she was sitting across from a man rich in heart. Emma didn't say anything at first. She just watched Liam return to the table, suddenly shy again, as if he had revealed too much of himself. He sat down carefully, almost afraid to look her in the eye, and quietly apologized if everything felt overwhelming. He only wanted her to know the real him. He said the version people didn't see, the one behind the worn clothes and the old pickup truck. Emma's heart softened in a way she hadn't expected. All her life, she had been shown luxury, perfection, and polished manners, but none of it had ever touched her the way this night had. She reached across the table and gently took his hand, her voice steady and full of certainty. She told him she didn't want just a second date. She wanted every date, every moment, every bit of the honesty and kindness he carried. Because love, she realized, isn't measured in wealth, it's measured in depth.